Hello, welcome to another episode where we are going to be talking about mental health and how it's affecting the youth and the people, the populace at large in Zimbabwe. Today I'm joined by two beautiful ladies. They're going to introduce themselves. I'll start with the lady to my immediate left.
All right, hello everyone, and my name is Watina Matafi, and I'm coming from ZY Plus, which is Zimbabwe Young Positives, and I'm also a counselor.
Ma'am, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Yvonne Shumbanete. I'm coming from the Africa Asia Youth Foundation, and I'm also a researcher.
And I'm your host, Gabriel Chiduko. So, ladies, I'm just going to dive into it. What is mental health? What are we talking about when we say mental health? I'll start with you, Oti.
All right, when we are talking about mental health, this is basically looking at the holistic approach of a normal human being.
Okay.
And this also talks about how the person feels, thinks, and acts. So it's basically about the wellness or the well-being of a human being.
Okay. Okay. Do you have something different that you'd like the audience to maybe understand about what mental health is?
Not necessarily anything different, but
Okay.
just to add on to what Otina has already said. This is the ability of a human to deal with the stresses of life.
Okay.
So when we're talking about mental health, we are not saying stress is not there. It's actually there, but a mentally health somebody can actually deal with it, and they can deal with it in a manner that does not endanger them, that does not plunge them into some issues which may need medical attention. So the mental well-being of a human being gives them the ability to deal with the stressors. So if you are able to deal with your stress, because definitely life has got stress, you are able to deal with all the problems that you face, then you are mentally well. But if you can't deal with the problems now, you have got a mental disorder.
Okay. What are the root causes of maybe poor mental health? What are the root causes of poor mental health? What causes someone to have what we can say this person is suffering from mental health issues?
Thank you so much for that question. And I would say there isn't anything physical, just like so many other illnesses or so many other infections. There isn't something physical really, but usually it's medically proven that this person is not mentally okay, or this person is mentally okay. For example, there are so many things that can even affect people today in this world, but somebody may not know that where I'm going right now, I'm headed towards depression, or the way that I'm feeling right now, I'm feeling anxious. They may not know, but those are signs of a bad mental health. When you constantly feel anxious, when you constantly plunge into depression, those are the issues. And unfortunately, in our country, or maybe in our culture, you find that we don't appreciate these things like anxiousness. The fact that I'm anxious or I'm depressed, people just say animal moods. These days, she's constantly refusing to eat, and it's not something that people should really make a fuss about. So there isn't something that is very physical, but it has to be mentally proven that this is a mental problem that somebody has. But the moment somebody cannot really deal with stress, some people, they then exhibit some physical signs, but the moment those physical signs are coming out, it already means that they are now...
There's a problem going on.
Yeah, they now have a problem already. When some people start passing out at any simple news, or maybe just something that you say to them in a rush, people need to find means of giving you some news. It's a sign of a bad mental health. So those are some of the issues, but definitely it has to be mentally proven, and somebody has to seek constant medical checkups in terms of their mental health to see what's going on, because these things, they just start at one point, especially when somebody is exposed to excessive stress at a certain point. Then if this kind of thing sets in, usually it doesn't go away. It's only manageable when there are no stressors, but when these stressors come, then it manifests then it's manageable as long as there is nothing, but then it keeps on manifesting time after time because of some experiences that a person could have gone through.
Thank you so much. Going on the essence of time and the importance of time, Ochi, this one is for you because I feel like we are living in a world where young people want things to move fast. We want progress. We want to advance at a very high rate. And I'm going to go to the issue of the Mjolo pandemic. So they call it in the streets and, you know, around. Is it affecting people to such an extent where we can actually say someone is suffering from mental health issues of unemployment, issues of drug abuse? I feel like these are the effects of what she was talking about, to say someone is failing to deal with stress and pressure. What's your take on all of that? Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I just like what she said, when we are talking about depression or the mental health issues, basically one person, when we are talking about clinical depression, has to go through 3 stages, and one of them being the first stage of being anxious, having anxiety, and probably not really accepting the reality of things that are there. And the person now moves to the second stage, which is now the stage of concealing the pain or the issues that are there. And most of them now, they come up with coping mechanisms that they now introduce. And sometimes that's the stage where we find the person now introducing beer, trying to relieve stress by drinking beer. And when we go to the issue of Njolo, most of the times we then realize that a person is suffering from mental health after they've already shown these symptoms, and at times the person can actually escalate to the full clinical depression, which is now the full-blown depression. And most of these are the ones that we now see of people committing suicide, or probably they will now go to an extent of actually abusing the drugs to the levels where they will be maybe taking glues or whatever it is that they are trying to use. So yeah, I can safely say these are actually contributing to the mental health issues that are there out there. And unemployment already on its own, most of these youth or the young people that are out there, they don't really have the supporting family or the people that are there to support them. So it actually affects, since they'll be trying to actually cope and be somebody, a productive somebody in the community or in the family, especially if they are not necessarily living with their parents or the people that actually understands them. So I can safely say these are actually one of the things that are actually pushing these mental health issues, and these are some of the reasons why we really need to talk about this, because most of the cases, just like what she said, we will not necessarily see it, but we then see the effects or see the person while the person is now on stage 2 or on stage 3, which will not necessarily be good. So yeah, they're actually contributing.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting because what you're saying, both of you ladies are saying that it's pressure. Life is pressure. We are faced with different types of pressure every day. Are these things preventable? Can you prevent like certain aspects of your life? You know, you work a very demanding job, you are managing maybe your family, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're unemployed, you know. Can you prevent a bad state of mental health?
I would say that this issue of prevention is a little bit difficult, because the pressures of life, some of them, they are actually threats. When we look at them from a perspective of a SWOT analysis, these are not things that you've got jurisdiction over. When we talk about unemployment, it's not an issue that somebody has got control over, because this is something that is happening to everyone. It's the environment that we are in as a country, as a region, and sometimes even the whole world is grappling unemployment, especially youth unemployment, because in this era, everyone is saying there's a youth bulge. There's a youth bulge. There are more young people who are looking for jobs, who are out of school. And with that in place, you cannot have control over your status of unemployment. But it's not only unemployment that is actually stressing these young people, even those who are trying to get into business, especially in our culture and the mindset that has been built over time with the generational gaps that are existing. You realize that our parents still feel that we need to get into the mainstream job market where they expect everyone to be an accountant. If you want to do something different, there is no parental buy-in, and that is a source of pressure for the young people. And you don't have control over your parents, because sometimes there are these kind of parents that have come over time in this patriarchal society where you can't sit your parents down to say, I want to talk to you. They are the ones who have to call you, and when they want you to go, they tell you to leave. So this is the space where we are in, and we don't have control. When it comes to Mujolo, sometimes you don't have control over the next person, because if they feel like they want to let you go, the next day they tell you, no, this relationship is not working for me.
It was just a thing.
Yes, it was. You know, that kind of
And you
thing.
deal with the consequences later.
You try. You can try your best,
Yeah.
but your best may not be enough. So these are not things that we can really say we prevent, because at the end of the day, every young person has to go through Mujolo at one point.
Yeah.
Because those are the relationships that are there in this day and age. Where people get into a relationship, they want everything fast. So when they get into a relationship, they want it to graduate so fast. So when it graduates so fast, it ends up being nothing, because the next person has experienced everything and they feel like they want to move on. And at the same time, even the one part may be feeling that the other part isn't as fast as they want. They are not bringing out cash as much as those kinds of things. So definitely talking of prevention is not one of the things, but dealing with the stressor when it comes could be the issue that we really have to talk about. We need to talk about the coping mechanisms which are actually positive, which comes with positive results.
That was actually going to be my next question. Thank you for bringing that up.
Let me not preempt it. I'll let you answer the question.
I actually wanted to know how, because you said some of these factors are external factors that affect us indirectly. They are not intrinsic, but you know what I mean. Like, how do you deal with something that you can directly affect, or something that affects you directly? What kind of mental aptitude do you need to have to handle these kind of pressures as a young person? I'll go to Oti, just say one or two things, and then I'll go to Madam Lady there.
Okay, I think it's very important, firstly, to understand that anxiety on its own is actually important for us. It's part of the things that we created that are in us. But when the levels changes, you probably are now not able to sleep, and what it now means that you now need to find solutions. Just like what she said, you cannot necessarily prevent it, but it's also necessary to have I can give one recommendation of having peer-to-peer support. Have a friend, have somebody that you can actually talk to. When it comes to aspects of Mujolo, understand that everybody comes, and when they are part or their chapter in your life is done, let them go.
Easier said than done, but okay. All right. We're taking notes.
And when it comes to the issues of unemployment, we understand we are in Zimbabwe where the rate is just like what she said. Most people out there, they are not employed. Try to look for other things that can actually occupy your mind, that can actually be a source of income, and things that can actually bring money into your life, and that can actually fill in the gaps. I'm sure most of the people that are out there, they have things that they are passionate about. They have the things that they are talented to do. Try to do those things, and it will actually help you.
Thank you so much. Madam?
It's quite interesting, because the issue of us as young people finding this person you call a friend, for some people, they are actually introverts. They don't like to talk. They wouldn't want to have somebody they call a friend. So in those instances, this person may not be a friend. These days, there are so many online platforms where you can even talk to somebody anonymous. just speak out. Because these people, especially who call themselves introverts, they tend to be very quiet. They tend not to want to speak out. They tend want to feel like to present themselves like they're this strong person whom everybody can rely on. But at the same time, they are affecting themselves inside. So you need to find a way that really suits you to say, do you want to go online anonymous? There are even call centers where you can just call anonymous and speak to somebody. Find these spaces and speak. Or volunteer, because what you need to keep your mind safe is that you don't need to dwell on this thing, to keep thinking about the same thing and increasing your levels of anxiety. You need to distract yourself. Some can distract themselves by singing, some can distract themselves by watching a movie, some can distract themselves by going on social media, but they still need to be careful that they don't get addicted to social media, because there is now another pandemic which is coming, digital addiction. So people need to do these things, but at the same time, they need to do them responsibly. At one point, you need to make sure that you detoxify yourself from these digital platforms as well, and ensure that when you go on these platforms, you are very much aware of the possibilities of cyberbullying and harassment on social media. But you can choose your spaces safely to say, I personally go on this platform because I like to read news, I like to read these kinds of materials. So it's always about you knowing the kind of person you are and how you can assist yourself. Because if you love music, go on and listen to music, distract yourself, stop thinking about these things. And maybe volunteer, do some work. You can do some gardening even at home, and you can assist us also to deal with climate change.
Thank you so much for bringing the aspect of primary production in dealing with stress. You know, we're going to be digging gardens and digging wells. And in that note, Madam, can you please maybe try and bridge a gap between the urban youth and the rural youth? Like, how do the people in the rural areas, do you feel like people in the rural areas have the same difficulties in as far as mental health, as well as, you know, other things that affect the young people, especially in towns, or the pressures are different?
Okay. I feel like it's almost the same, though it's different in the aspect that some of the things, just like what she was saying on the issue of being addicted to the digital platforms that are there, they don't really have that platforms to be addicted to and to actually run to them. But then now, this is now the area where we find, when we are talking about the rural ones, this is now the area where we find young people that are now using beer, like there's what they call shingome and what they now go to when they are trying to
Cranko.
Something like that, when they are trying to cope on with the mental health issues. So somehow they are there even in the rural areas and in the urban, just that probably the different aspects will be on how they try to cope with them and how they are exposed to some of these things. We understand that unemployment is not really an issue that they really talk about, since they focus on things like farming and doing gardening, like just what she said. So,
do you think pressure is relative?
Okay, pardon me, I didn't want to answer that question now. I wanted to say something about this one.
Okay, please go ahead.
You know what? When we are talking about young people in the rural areas, we also need to be very sincere about some of the reasons why some of the young people are actually in the rural areas right now. So the challenges that we face are actually the same, because we need to look at where mental health issues start from. Some of them, they actually come from family backgrounds. So we all have our roots in the rural areas, and some of the things that are affecting me are starting from where this other young person is. And some young people, they have not come to the city because actually they don't have anybody. Some of them, they have tried and they went back with their stress. and they are now trying to take ngome and all those things because they are trying to deal with the stress. That they try to live with an uncle. The uncle expected them to bring a loaf of bread every day, but they didn't know that this guy was only getting $30 from where he was working. So the stressors, they are almost the same because the root is the same. Young people in the rural areas, they are actually also part of the Mujolo pandemic. They are actually breaking each other's hearts out there in the rural areas. So the issues are pretty much the same. But indeed, the question that you asked, pressure is relative, in my own opinion, because what may pressurize me right now may be different from what Otina may look at as pressure. I may be unemployed but still content. But somebody else cannot
sit down,
cannot
even sleep.
Yes, they can't sleep. If they lose their job today, they can't sleep. I can be content without even a single dollar in my pocket and moving around and just knowing that at least if I eat and sleep, I'll be fine, I'll see it tomorrow. But somebody, the moment they don't have a dollar or they have got the last dollar in their pocket, they've got a lot of pressure. I can be heartbroken today and tomorrow I'm fine after breaking up with someone, just like Otina was saying. Just move on. For some people, they can just move on. You said it's over, all right, it's okay. They leave. But some people, they can't handle it. So pressure is relative. It's different from person to person. It depends with even their backgrounds. Because for some people, they were actually born people who are highly anxious. From a very tender age, you realize that if this person starts crying, they will cry the whole day.
Yeah.
From a very tender age, they haven't experienced life, they haven't experienced this situation before, but they're just like that. I have a daughter who doesn't cry out loud. She's just like that ever since she was young. When she's crying, she cries inside.
She's a cute crier.
You see? So pressure is actually relative. Even when you're beating her, you're beating her harder, but she still maintains her posture. She doesn't cry out loud. So that's how pressure is relative to people.
Oh, thank you so much for those. Those are very, very, very valuable and very rich responses that we're getting from our two experts here. But I want to go back to what the government of Zimbabwe is doing. What has the government put in place to try and help or to try and aid? Because we are tomorrow's leaders. That's what they say. And if the current population, which is predominantly youth, is succumbing to pressures and we are kicking ourselves out of this dimension of living and we are losing it, basically. What is the government doing? How is it addressing it, Oti?
Okay, I feel like for us as Zimbabwe,
is it addressing it?
I feel like for us as Zimbabwe, we are not 100%, or should I say maybe 70% of it is not being addressed. Because most of the policies or things that are in place, they're actually talking about mental health at the third stage, like stage 3, where we can actually see it, where somebody's actually mentally ill, that they need to be transferred to some annex or places where they can actually get
psychiatric help.
Yeah, something like that. So I feel like it's not, because when you go to most of the clinics, you can't, just like what she highlighted when she was saying it. She said mental health issues are not something that you can actually state, or you cannot actually detect that somebody's going through it, especially when we are talking about stage 1. So us not having platforms or people that are there at different facilities specifically for that, like screening people that are still at early stages and people that are available to actually talk and be there for the people that feel like they need someone to talk to, while it's not yet at the highest level. I feel like they are not necessarily addressing it.
Okay. Madam, what are your sentiments towards the stance of the government of Zimbabwe towards?
Yeah, I would concur with Otina that 70% of the staff is not actually being addressed, but maybe I would move the percentage to 80.
Okay.
because we actually have an outdated act.
Okay.
The Mental Health Act is actually outdated. It speaks to the same things that Otina has been alluding here to say, we are talking of somebody who's already running psych.
Yeah.
That's the person that
Yeah.
the act is
It's
actually
advanced, yeah.
responding to. We have got a mental health policy that speaks to the same things. It speaks to the need for us to have rehabilitation centers. But this same policy says that we don't have the resourcing. In terms of human resources, in terms of the materials, we don't have the capacity to do it. And right now we have got a strategy, 2019 to 2023, the mental health strategy that we have as a country. That same mental health strategy, it speaks to the need to have some national structure, which has got a team. It speaks to having a deputy director at the national office. We have got some provincial structures, we've got district structures, we have got structures to the village level. But right now, if we go to the villages, do we have people walking door to door like the strategy is stating? These people are not there. So our Mental Health Act, Chapter 1506, it's not actually addressing these issues.
Okay.
And secondly, in terms of resourcing and capacitating the facilities that are available, you see, in Zimbabwe, we really count on Ngomahuru.
Yep.
This one right here in Masvingo.
In Masvingo, yeah.
It's something that even in the newspapers we've heard that we have women walking there, menstrual blood dripping because they just can't get mere menstrual health materials to use. How then do we think that such a facility is actually capable of dealing with all those people who have got mental challenges in Zimbabwe? We have got so many mental health disorders that needs to be attended to.
Oh, yeah.
Because some of the children, they are actually born like that.
Oh, yeah.
And we have got schools, very few of them that can cater for such children in the country. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm saying we can move the percentage to 80 because most of the stuff is written down. The policy is there, but it's also outdated. Because now we are talking of new phenomena that are coming in the mental health fraternity, where we are saying there are these stages. So these policies that are there are not even speaking to stage 1 and stage 2. They are speaking to the last stage where somebody is actually in a stage where they cannot be assisted sometimes.
Yeah.
All you can do is to manage them by injecting them, and sometimes we don't even have the injections to do so. So at the end of the day, you would find that there is a lot that needs to be done. That policy also states that there is need to have a public-private partnerships where the private sector has to do something about issues of mental health. But the question now is, the silence from the private sector, does it mean that they've been reached out to and they are ignoring the issues? They may not have been reached out to.
Of course.
They know nothing about this because nobody is doing enough advocacy. 10 October is actually Mental Health Day. Who is speaking about commemorating that day and where? I've seen people already talking about cancer month.
Cancer awareness month, breast cancer awareness.
Yes,
Yep.
they are already on it.
Yep.
But who talks about mental health? Where the policy is there on paper, but there is no intention or objectivity in terms of wanting to really deal with this, because also the policy may be there, but the mindset still tells us that no, mental health issues are actually cultural. People need to appease the spirits.
Yes.
They need to deal with some goals of some sort in their families. So with that mindset, even though the policy is there, we may not be in a position to say we want to really do something as yet. I hope the policy, when it ends in 2023, we get to be very active. And I think CSOs have got a very huge challenge there to actually deal with the crafting of the new policy on mental health, because this is increasing by the day. And with digital spaces and social media moving at the pace it's moving, mental health issues are going to increase. We've seen people crying on Instagram, people crying on Facebook. because they are venting there, and most of the
It's a
challenges
virtual space, yeah.
would have
You can-
started from that very same space.
Yeah. I think this is a challenge to the corporate world in Zimbabwe. Many of the highly astute and highly esteemed business people in Zimbabwe face different types of challenges each and every day. And as the youth, it would actually mean a lot to the youth to have a high value person come and address the youth on how to deal with pressures in business, how to deal with pressures in life, how to deal with pressures even as a young adult. So the torch is still with the older generation, but it needs to be passed on to the younger generation so that we can steer the future. What are your recommendations to the government, to schools, to churches, to businesses?
I feel like what she said is still going to be important. There is need of reviving and re-strategizing on the issues of mental health, like the policies and the things that are at ground. Because when we look at it, we are seeing high cases of suicides and mental health issues are rising. So as the government or as the community at large, there is need of actually coming up with interventions that can actually assist, especially from stage 1, trying to screen, trying to offer psychosocial support in different facilities. If possible, let there be even a person that can be there and ways of actually accessing the services, be it some toll-free lines, be it a counselor, a psychologist that can strictly be there to actually offer psychosocial support in different facilities from the villages, clinics, hospitals, so that people can actually vent out. And also it's very important to run out with the message of young men and the people that are out there so that they can actually understand that they can also cry and they can also lean on somebody's shoulder and have somebody that will listen to them and actually understands what they are going through and get support when it's necessary, especially when it's at stage 1 and stage 2, so that they can actually be assisted. When it comes to the religious sector, let's not confuse people and tell them about the spirits or what. Let's encourage people to actually, the community and the young people that are out there, to actually seek psychosocial support when it's necessary. If the relevant leader that's there, be it a pastor, a prophet or whatever, feels like they cannot offer the support that is necessary, let them refer to relevant stakeholders. It's actually important to refer. And let's admit where we cannot assist someone, let's safely say that I cannot assist you on this particular issue, so that they can actually get the relevant support that they actually need.
Thank you so much for that. Ma'am, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that prayer answers everything. So the church is nothing that they can do with.
I've got a problem with that. Because many times people run to the church to get a fixation, to get like a fix, but it doesn't really solve the real issues. Prayer answers things, but if you watch and you don't pray, you are, so this is something that we need to really address, because people think, people that are watching us right now, some of them believe that if you go to church, like all of your problems are going to go away. But I'll tell you, the same people that are depressed in the country are the same people that are going to be depressed in church.
Okay, from a research perspective, it's highly and well researched that spirituality actually assists in every area. It's actually something that has been spoken about even by researchers world over regarding the banning of churches during the COVID-19. And there is a very big relationship between the time somebody tested HIV positive and the day they started going to church.
Oh.
Yes. It's there in research, there are results. It's shown.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes as we are talking about these things, I think it's also something that we need to put into consideration, that the church is already playing a huge role in ensuring that people have a place to run to. Because it's easier for somebody to run to their pastor when they've got issues. And really, it assists to those who believe in it, because this is an issue of spirituality. It's not something that we can say somebody who's out there, you just tell them to go to church. Those people who don't get help are those people you tell from on the streets to say, just come and see my pastor. That kind of a person may not get it because they are not spiritually attuned to those things. But anyway, that could be a story for another day. Let me say that.
Just one more.
Recommendations.
Just one more before you go to the recommendations. We're living in a world where information is flowing all the time.
Yes.
And you go to certain economies and certain populations where there is no form of spirituality whatsoever. In fact, you can go to a country where it's 70% atheist, or they believe there's a higher power somewhere, but they are not as invested in maybe spirituality in the way that we are accustomed to it here in Africa and Zimbabwe specifically. How is that person supposed to deal with mental health issues? They can't go to a pastor, they can't go to a spiritual leader, but they are battling depression, they are on the verge of committing suicide, they are anxious, they are all over the place. How do those people deal with?
Spirituality really plays a big role. I've seen, even on movies, they are there to teach us certain cultures. We can safely talk about the Indian culture because we've been watching Bollywood. We can talk about the Nigerian culture because we've been watching Nollywood. So look at it from this point. We have seen people going to appease kettles, mombe, and these people are vajge mombe because to them it's a sacred animal.
Hindus, yep.
You see? So this is the same thing that we're talking about. Whoever that person is, we have got the African traditional religion that was there before Christianity came. Those people, they believed vakafa vedu vanotireverera. That was their spirituality. And whenever they had challenges, munhu akatopenga mumhuri, paiva natonzwi konzi vari kuti kudini, and mombe pamwe todirwa chiyodirwa zvainodirwa pachitwa zvapanoitwa. That was the spirituality. So what I'm basically saying is, I'm not talking about a particular religion, but I'm talking about spirituality in general, where people run towards something they believe will bail them out of a problem. So when they go there, they find relief. When somebody speaks to their pastor behind closed doors and they are sharing, they are pouring out their heart, and the pastor prays for them, when they are living there, they are feeling
lighter.
Yes, they're feeling lighter. And they've spoken to someone. Probably they've told their pastor what they've not even told somebody else, whether a mother, a sister, a brother. They haven't told them, but they can safely say they can go to a pastor, and pastor listens to them and he prays.
That's why I was saying, Oti, this is for you. That's why I was saying, is there a bridge that is bridging the concerns of the broader population as to what the spirituality is actually providing for people? Is there that bridge? Is there that liaison? Is the spiritual marrying with what is really going on in people's minds, in people's hearts, and in people's lives? Is it there? Is that bridge there?
The marriage part is something that is questionable, because already we are living in a space where we are saying the social fabric is tearing everywhere. So as long as we are in this era where the social fabric is tearing in every area, every sector, whether in the spiritual sense, religious sense, or even in the social sense where people are living, what is expected of this generation by the previous generation is not tallying. Because when they grew up, there was no chicken in, remember? Chicken in is only there now, there was no internet. But they expect me to keep on eating sadza when there's chicken in. It's there in my generation. So I'm bound to want to enjoy it. Internet is there now, and there are so many jobs on the internet that young people can spend the whole day doing. People are eating money from Facebook, they're eating money from TikTok, but as you're doing those things, the previous generation will tell you you are lazy. So let's not really talk about bridging the gap, because we have not been able to bridge the generational gap. As long as we can't bridge that generational gap, we really can't be talking about bridging the gap between the spirituality and all those things. Because remember, even the religion itself is actually hinged on some things which are from the past, which were there before this generation. And those who are leading the churches, they are still those from the previous generation. So we cannot expect things to change right now. Like I talked about the policy that we are using right now in Zimbabwe. The act has not been updated. I think even 2013, when we were running around with doing the new constitution, I don't think anybody touched the Act 1506. I don't think anybody touched anything about it, because actually the policy that was enacted in 2019 was actually replacing an old policy that was there from 1984. So you would realize that this is not an issue that is of paramount importance right now. So as long as we are still here and not able to bridge the generational gap, we've got almost 70% youth, but those youth are not yet leading, like you were alluding to say, we are the leaders of tomorrow. I wouldn't say that, because we are 70% of the population. How can we lead tomorrow when we are the bigger population? We have to lead now. So how do we lead? Leading may not really necessarily mean that you need to be the pastor of the church, you need to be the president, you need to be the MP. You can lead from the community. I'm going to my recommendations now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, please do.
So you can lead from anywhere. An individual can be a leader in their own right. Like myself, I'm a researcher. I'm well informed about so many things. I'm not a mental health practitioner, but I'm here talking about mental health issues. I'm not a lawyer, but I do policy review for my own interest. And I am actually dealing with my mental health issues because I'm always preoccupied. I'm always doing something, you see. So you need to lead from the front in your own way. So I wouldn't say that the corporate world should do this, because corporate world is part of the same community that we're talking about. The church is part of the community. Our leaders, they are part of the community. So we need to all put our hands on deck and do one thing as a community, as a country, probably even as a constituency where we come from, as a ward, in our area where we come from. We just need to be people who know, how is that one doing, how's this one doing. I've had a situation where somebody was being kept inside their house. The community knowing, but nobody saying anything about it. I had to play the bad person, because I had to call the police. Because that was human rights, and the person was then tied at the hospital. And the person later died. But this could have been something that was preventable had the community played their role ahead of time. To know that there's somebody who is sick somewhere is something that the community should take a step on. So as the community, not in our differences in terms of religion, not in our differences in terms of political party, not in our differences in the intergenerational gap itself, we need to put all that aside and act as a community, act as a people. I said 10 October is International Mental Health Day. What are we going to do? We are running, there's a pandemic, drug pandemic among the youth. What is the root cause? Let us talk about mental health issues. Let's bring mental health to the table and let's begin to do something now. As a community, as a collective, regardless of where you come from, your profession, everybody is affected by mental health, young or old, whatever profession, uri pamsika, uri kubasa, vari kubasa vari kuhora mari isingakwani, saka havasi kuzotenga pamsika. So we are all being affected by the same thing. So we don't need to play differences. Somebody's in the informal sector, but they are banking on you getting your salary where you are working so that you come and buy from them. If you don't get a good salary, they don't get a customer. So that's the same thing. Let's talk about our issues as a collective. We are not different. We are diverse, but in our diversity, we can still come together and do something. Let's commemorate International Mental Health Day, and let's always acknowledge that this is something that we need to deal with as a people.
All right, thank you so much for watching and tuning in to today's program. I would like to thank the very capable and very expressive young women that were here today. Ladies, thank you so much for your information, for your advice. We'll see you next time.